Welcome to Keep It Shut, the very first online book study with WCIC. I'm Jill Tracy from Mornings with the Tracys, and I'm so excited to be joined today by the author of the New York Times bestseller, Keep It Shut. It's Karen Ehman. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jill.
So we're excited about this book. I mean, right away, as soon as we opened up registration, we gave away our 15 free books, I think, within like an hour or so. And we just keep getting more and more people signing up. I think that the topic of Keep It Shut is so timely and something that everyone's thinking about. Why did you feel the need to write this book?
Well, mostly I wrote it for myself. Sorry to sound selfish, but my mouth has gotten me in trouble almost throughout my whole life. It was what teachers commented on when I was little. I talked too much, or I talked when they were talking and I should have been listening. And then on into middle school and high school and adulthood, sometimes my mouth got me in trouble because I gossiped or I said the right thing at the wrong time or the wrong thing at the wrong time. I just had quite an issue, and I could almost always trace back a fractured relationship to something that had gone on with my mouth. And so I really began to make it a matter of prayer, and I knew the Bible had lots to say about it, so I started to learn the lessons myself, and people noticed a change in me, and I decided maybe some of this would help other people, because I have a sneaking suspicion there are people out there, especially women, who have mouths.
Definitely. I mean, starting off in chapter 1, you go into a lot of detail about what must be kind of still painful for you to remember. This story when you were in 8th grade, and you told a not so flattering truth about a friend, and you got yourself kind of kicked out of your cool friends group. Does that still bring up some pain in your heart or your brain at times?
It actually does. Middle school is just awful, especially, not to be stereotypical or anything, but I think when you're a female, it seems like the middle school girls I know, myself, my daughter, others included, you either cry all the way through middle school or you're fighting all the way through middle school. I kind of did a little bit of both. But yeah, I repeated something a boy had told me about a girl that he snuck a kiss with under the bleachers at a dance one time to another boy that I kind of had a crush on, in hopes that that second boy wouldn't take the girl to the next dance. But it all blew up in my face, and not only did it get back to that girl what I'd said, but the boy that said it denied it. And overnight in 8th grade, kind of in the middle of the winter, a little bit after Christmas, I lost all of my friends.
Wow.
All my friends overnight, and I loved school. I just absolutely loved school, but all of a sudden I hated it. I dreaded going every day. I had a knot in my stomach, all because I let my mouth trip me up. And words are powerful and they have consequences, and I certainly learned that lesson in the 8th grade.
Well, let's move on to throwing flesh balls. You talk about a phrase that you and your husband have in chapter 2 of you call it throwing flesh balls, when you kind of sling those phrases or words that are a little bit on the hateful side sometimes. Where did this phrase come from for you guys?
Actually, my husband's a pretty quiet guy, but every once in a while he comes up with a zinger, and he's the one that actually invented the phrase throwing flesh balls. Our first probably 2 or 3 years of marriage were really hard, and both of us kind of went, what were we thinking? Like, if we roll the clock back again, it was better being single. And we tended to just have a hard time meshing our personalities. I'm extremely talkative and pretty decisive, and he's extremely quiet and pretty passive and laid back, and it just spelled a recipe for disaster. And so often we would get into these fights, and my friend Lisa calls them growth opportunities. We'd get into these growth opportunities, and we would just let our words sling. Even though he was quiet, he would let some words sling every once in a while too. And I remember one day he said, that he'd been reading in Scripture about how we are supposed to walk by the Spirit and not gratify the desires of the flesh. And he said, when you and I just get in an all-out war, and I'm trying to get my way and you're trying to get your way, or each of us is trying to express our opinion and prove that we're right, so we're not walking in the Spirit at all. All we're doing is throwing flesh balls. We're scooping down a big hunk of flesh, and we're just throwing it at the other person, and it does not please God, and it does not help our relationship. So we need to deal with this, and we need to deal with it now. We either need to stop throwing the flesh balls and start to speak in a way that honors God, get our opinions across, we get our point across, but we don't have to do it snarky or I tend to be kind of snippy and snarky and mean, and he tends to be really sarcastic, and so that's never a good mix. So we either stop how we're talking and talk in a way that does glorify God and is walking in the Spirit, or we need to just stop talking at all and let it rest and come back later when we can have a better attitude.
Well, thanks for joining us for the first week of the online book study. We're loving the book, Karen, and looking forward to growing and becoming more grace-filled and like Joseph in the way that we talk.
Awesome. Thanks, Jill.